Good
Morning.
morning. We've got the tropical thing behind us this morning.
It's very bright and sunny out there, so we've come in here for a bit of protection.
Yeah.
Another big topic today, enmeshment. What is enmeshment? Let's start there.
Well, I always think of animals like trapped in a fence. If you've ever seen an animal that's got itself stuck in a fence, or Jo was saying just before we came on, like fish that are trying to get out of a net. They've been trapped in the net. That's kind of what it feels like to be enmeshed as a child even. And what was your experience of being in an enmeshment relationship, Jo, as a child?
Really, if I go to the biggest area was around emotions, and so I pretty much felt like I had to turn up with a smile or go away. So anytime I wasn't happy, like if I had something going on inside me, there was this regular term used, oh, she's just got the shits, leave her alone. So oh gosh, there might be some tears even here today. So I can't express anger, sadness, anything else than silence or smiling and fake smiling. And I so took this into my marriage and did this very same thing to my husband, who would come to me just wanting to talk to me, express what was going on for him, and I would just dismiss him and go away with your feelings and come back when you've got your stuff sorted.
Yeah, and it's interesting how that happens, because it's the thing we didn't like happening to us as children, but of course we have no other model this is the only model we've seen. So we just don't know what to do with, we've never had anything different to that model. So we haven't had, come and I'll listen to your feelings. You've never seen anyone do that.
Yeah.
So how do you, it takes a lot of training to be able to really tune into one. If you didn't learn it as a child, if nobody's mirroring your feelings and asking you about your needs, then to learn that as an adult is like learning a new language. So we're really encouraging you, especially over the Christmas period, to notice, to know, first of all, the first thing is to know you have a choice over this, because if Jo hadn't started awakening to the fact this is what happened to her as a child, then you just stay stuck in the pattern. You just stay enmeshed in that same pattern. But as an adult, we actually do have a choice, but usually by making a choice that I don't have to do this behaviour, like I can smile, around mum, I can smile and be happy and, or even be grumpy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can say to her, look, Mum, I'm too tired today to come to Christmas lunch or whatever. If that really is your choice, then, and you're making that as an adult, you have the right to do that as an adult. But because of our childhoods, we often don't think we have a choice as an adult. We feel like we're still going to, and what comes up in our body is the feeling of what happened when we, when we got the shits, or all these words they used to say to us, all of that, and we don't want that to happen. And we don't know how to, even as adults, we don't know how to deal with those feelings. So I would, and this is where tapping comes in, it's such an incredible tool to use, because when you make a choice as an adult and you haven't gone against any of the family kind of traditions, or and you're making this as a healthy choice for you, then you can, tap on the resistance to what's coming up, whether it be guilt, shame. What would come up for you
if you were to slow it down is a big thing. If someone is asking you to give them a decision, if you can, and you feel feelings coming up in your body and you're not sure what to do with them, and you need time, can you ask that person to perhaps give them an answer in 2 days or a day or a couple of hours, so that you can slow down and become really aware of what's going on in your body, and take some action to deal with it, like the tapping and deep breaths, and just the awareness is the big thing when we're not responding automatically. And this is what I did for so many years, just go silent and say I'm fine, when everybody in the family, my children too, knew that I was not fine, but I didn't know that it was okay to express needs. I didn't even know that it was okay to have needs, let alone express them.
Yeah. So it really is a new thing to learn, and I was exactly the same. Like to really, I feel to a certain extent I got a lot of approval around looking after myself, and I was quite good at doing that as a child, but it then escalated into becoming like a superpower, that I wouldn't ever ask for help until I'd get really burnt out, as I've talked about before, and then get sick, and then by being sick I'm allowed to, now I've got an excuse. So this all comes from not knowing how to say what we feel and what we need, and trying to fit in and be enmeshed in the family environment. When if we make a choice that's right for us in the beginning, say that we go, actually I'm only staying for an hour for Christmas lunch. I'm only going to be staying for an hour and then we're going somewhere else. Now, I know in the past that would have been a really hard thing for me to be able to tell my parents, I can only stay for an hour, because there was just an expectation that at Christmas we're going to be kind of spending the whole day together. And if I was to do that in the past, what I would have to do to make that choice is notice all the feelings that come up inside of me. So there would be all of this guilt that would come up. So I would have to probably spend quite a lot of time, maybe get a fast through tea session done on myself to actually really release all the guilt that was coming up, and tapping and noticing that, so that I could make a choice. Now I might decide to make a different choice once I'd shifted the guilt. Maybe I'd decide to stay for 2 hours, but it would be a much more healthy choice. If you feel like really I'd like to only do 1 hour, and so I hope, does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
If you take a moment now to consider a time when someone has asked you to do something and you said yes with resentment. I have a few of those memories. I imagine, if you look hard, you might be able to find one. And if you recall that time and go into that feeling that you feel when you say yes with resentment, and then you turn up and you've got all this shit going on in your body because you said something against what was truly right for you.
Yeah, and then when you're there, you're much more likely to get pulled into the Auntie Mary story that we told last week on our video. That's where somebody else in the family is going to bother you, and so because you're already so out of alignment with your own needs and your own feelings, then then we can get caught up in dramas because we're already unhappy. But if you stay in alignment with yourself, that's much less likely to happen. But as I said, when I first started to do this, it was a real process. It's where the tapping tool comes in so handy, because there's just so much resistance that comes up because you're so used to staying in these enmeshed patterns with your family.
Yeah, and it can be quite subtle when you start becoming aware. Like if my focus is on someone else, something else, like Auntie Mary and I'm going down the rabbit hole of letting all that information about Auntie Mary take up my brain space, then I'm not focusing on my own joy, my bliss, what I want to do in life, my creativity. And a really good example we spoke about earlier was being on the treadmill at the gym, and what can happen subconsciously if next to you someone's going faster or slower.
Yeah.
You want to expand on that?
Yeah, if you're on the treadmill at the gym and all the other treadmills are free, and you're kind of doing your thing, you're walking at your own pace, you've got this rhythm going of your own, and this would have been me in the past for sure. if a person came along and they started to like go really fast, then there would have been a part of me going, oh, I probably should speed up here. Now that would have been okay, and I probably would have gone, I don't know. I think to a certain extent, for me, I appreciate that person and that, but I'm feeling a little bit bad that I can't keep up and all of these things. But it's become about focusing on that person next to me. This is me 10 years ago. And then if someone came into the gym and they would like have their head down and they're kind of not really enjoying themselves and they're going really slow on the treadmill beside me, then I'm thinking, I see my brain goes to thinking about, okay, should I slow down a bit? Like what? Like, it's bizarre that we even do this. And I'm glad now that I'm very aware, even in the gym now, when I do this kind of thing, and I notice what's going on in my head, because I can catch it and go, stick to your own rhythm, stick to, this is that you're here to do this for yourself. It's not about trying to keep up with that person or slowing yourself down to help that person out. You're here to do it for you. This is how adults are. This is what grown-ups do. Oh my gosh. but that, I hope that demonstration kind of shows you what it's like even for a child. Like, they're like, oh, mum's doing this, dad's doing this. We learn how to fit in, and we know that dad will get angry. So my children, they knew I liked everything healthy. So they knew that if they came to me saying, I want to have, this lolly with the sweets in it, or the especially like preservatives. I was really big on not having preservatives for a long time. And they all knew that I didn't like any of those things. They knew some of the numbers that were in bread and all that kind of thing. Like, I was an absolute Nazi around food for probably 5 or 6 years when my kids were small. So my kids started to learn how to get sweets around me, because I would not listen. I was just very authoritarian and very like, no, this is how it is. And so they didn't have a voice around food with me. And they still say to this day that was the worst thing in their childhood, was that I was just so rigid and strict around that kind of thing. And I didn't listen to what they were saying. I was very dismissive, and so what that created was, a way of them going to dance classes or something and getting all the lollies off the other kids and then hiding them somewhere and eating them somewhere else. So just, it doesn't, it never creates.
Yeah, that is huge, and that could be a talk for another day, because then when we find out such things about the lollies, we're going, oh, you're so manipulative, you're lying, you're rah, 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 and then the child might get in trouble for all of those things, which we've actually helped set up for them.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah. And again, that was because, like Jo, I didn't know what to do with their emotions, and I felt like I was helping them because they were going to be healthy. I was coming out of, a severe feeling of my own lack of control, really.
Well, that's where it comes from always, isn't it? When I'm doing it with my husband, and I feel like it's coming from a place of, I think I'm helping him by this automatic behaviour is the best thing in that moment. Mm-hmm. But it's also coming from lack and painful subconscious.
Yes.
Memories, beliefs, and I did the same thing to my children.
Yeah.
Yay.
And if you're new to this group, like, when Jo and I say to slow it down, like, it really was a big thing for me, even to become aware of what was triggering me, or just these little things in the beginning, like, and being able to kind of stop and not go into my normal programming. Which was usually for me was getting angry or kind of going off and sulking, hoping someone would chase after me. So these are all patterns of childhood where I'm turning into a 4-year-old basically. So if there's times in your adult life where you feel like you're turning into a 4-year-old, it's okay. It's okay. This is a very normal thing. And I would just encourage you to get your fingers up, start tapping on your face, Like, start saying to yourself, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. That's basically the only real promise I made to myself at the beginning of my Fastery of Tea journey, is that I would tap on my triggers in the heat of the moment, because that changed my life. Like, the heat of the moment, tapping is just so life-changing, because you have so many of these patterns. And some of the stuff that Jo and I are talking about now, we can say, oh, talk about your feelings, talk about your needs. Like, I could not do that. I really had to do about 2 years, just to give you an idea, like 3 years actually, of tapping on my triggers. Because now I sit here and talk and say, oh, let's think about how we feel and slow it down. Like, if you had said that to me when I hadn't done all the tapping on my heat of the moment triggers, which I've done a lot of, I would have gone, like, you don't understand. You do not get it. Like, just go away. Like, I would have really been mad with you for saying that to me. So guys, like, everybody watching, I really get it. I get how hard this stuff is, especially when you first start. And it's huge, and it's taken me years. And even now, I've just had my family come and stay here. And Jo asked me last night, oh, how did it go? And I can honestly say to you, we had the best time. And I wouldn't have thought that would have been a possibility after my father died. We went through a whole lot of crap in my family. And we all did a lot of personal growth work. I did, my sister did, my mum did. We all had to do it. And we had a really a needs and feelings based and honouring each other and respecting each other time together for the last couple of weeks. And I was still doing my work, which I would not, I used to put things off so that I could make sure I spent time with my family, and I didn't do any of that while they were here. And that's a miracle, because I was so tuned into having to enmeshed in I should be hanging out with them and not growing my own business. That's what I was like 10 years ago. The family came first. And, things have changed in my life a lot, but my brain even has changed. I didn't feel bad for doing it, and that is a miracle. So these things can change. They really can.
That's it. I go into this bad feeling.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that. In the beginning, I really had to stay committed to tapping on those heat of the moment triggers, and they came up and they came up and they came up. And I still, default to old behaviours occasionally too. Just recently we had a family event with my ex-husband and their family, who I get on with fine but rarely see. So I went to the event and I decided to leave early. And within me, that was totally fine. I was good with that. But when I look back now, I noticed that the expressing of that and the getting ready to leave, I started to get a little bit stressed. And I noticed in my tone of voice, I was very sharp in that I was leaving. It wasn't, hey, thanks so much. I've decided I'm going to head home. It was much sharper than that, because in the past, that's how I've communicated. When I finally get to that point where I'm stressed enough and ready to express my needs, it's out of control. By that time, I'm in my hindbrain, and there ain't much cognitive function going on, and I'm reacting rather than responding. Yeah, but that is such a good point, Jo, because that's the kinds of little things that you will start to become much more aware of. And in the beginning, it's embarrassing too. It's embarrassing to realise that you have these behaviours when you're triggered that really don't look that good to everybody else, but you don't even know that you're doing them, because of course this was your model of the world growing up. And so there can be a whole lot of shame that comes up around that. And so this is why people don't do this work, because it's easier just to stay in the pattern and, as we say, blame the other person, than have all your shame and all your embarrassment come up around, oh my God, I've really been speaking in that very direct tone a lot of the time. And I didn't even know I was really doing that. So to have that realization,
It's tough. It's tough.
it's
When I
like,
yeah,
let it go.
when I realised that I was being the bully, like the very behaviour that I most despised, and I had to face up that I do that behaviour, I am the bully. Oh my God! Then there's a whole nother level that kicks in. Like you get this awareness, and then the guilt of recognising that I behaved in that way too.
Yeah, and this is the reason I do this work. It was the main reason that brought me to it, because it was my biggest shame. But yes, I was exactly the same when I would turn into my father. So I remember my first fast EFT tapping sessions with my practitioners, the most triggering thing they could say to me, and I often tell all the ladies this, is, you know, you're just like him. They'd say, you're just like your father. And oh, it would make me so angry, and so like in that moment, because we'd gone to a memory about, you know, where I felt so out of control. We'd also done the memories where I'm a little kid and I'm feeling I'm feeling like, don't do this to me. This is so horrible what you're doing right now. And yet I'm doing that very same behaviour to my children.
Yeah.
And so that is a very massive realisation to have. And to then get to the other side of that through tapping and through the, you know, letting go of the shame of it. There's a part of us wants to hold on to that shame too, because maybe we'll keep protecting our kids that way, but it doesn't work like that. It really doesn't work like that. You think you're thinking logically it will, but it doesn't. Shame will eventually turn into that same behaviour, because it's coming out of fear, it's coming out of lack. And the only choices that we can truly make healthily and freely come out of abundance mentality. They come out of like, this is joyful for me. This is awesome. This feels amazing. So
Peaceful, even.
Yeah,
So
peaceful, content.
I am at peace.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing that I felt most of the time when my family were here, was peace. We had lots of good fun laughs. We had some belly laughs. And that's how you want life to be. But as children, if it wasn't like that, it's hard to imagine it can be like that. And we get that, we really get that. So yeah, I hope that's been watching the video.
Yeah.
Anything else?
And for those of you who did grow up in families where you know, your needs were, you were able to express your needs and they were honoured, and this may not make any sense to you.
Yes, which is yay!
This whole video. And
that's
yes,
awesome.
That is awesome, because you are very likely to be recreating that sort of situation with your children and engaging with their needs and desires and all of that anyway.
And what a wonderful world. I suppose the one thing, if you're watching this video and you feel like that's more you, I mean, we'd love to hear how, whether that's kind of unconsciously competent for you too. So whether you can't understand how people don't get this, because of course if you grow up in a home where there's lots of abuse, or just, Jo and I wouldn't say we grew up in abusive homes, but we grew up where people had their programs. People were just doing their programming on us. And but if you grow, and whatever kind of home you grow up in, that's just normal to you. So sometimes if you've grown up always having someone meeting your feelings and needs, I'd say that's very rare on the planet today. But if you did, like maybe you go, oh, okay, other people don't get how to do this. Because that's how it can be too.
Yeah. And then when you have other adults in your life who aren't able to do that, who then you may gain, through this, you may gain a better understanding of why they give you certain responses that are very different to how you would behave. Yeah,
totally. Because we're all just operating from what we know until we change it. And Christmas is a wonderful time to, because most of us have to spend, well, not have to, but can choose to spend time with the family. And that's what we encourage. Awareness, make healthy, fun choices for you, tap on resistance, have some more time, give yourself time, slow it down. What do I need? What am I feeling around this? What do I really want to make a choice about? And go from there. tap if you need to.
Yeah. If you have any questions, please go ahead and post below in the comments section.
And thanks for watching.
Yeah, and we'll see you. I have no idea what the date is, but I'm thinking we'll see you next Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll see you next Wednesday.
Close to Christmas.
I think it's Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Have a wonderful week.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.